Russian President Vladimir Putin warned that if Ukraine is granted permission to use long-range weapons inside Russia, it will put the U.S. and other NATO countries at war with Moscow. Speaking on CBS Mornings earlier, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin reiterated his support for Ukraine.
We have done the right things to help Ukraine defend its sovereign territory in terms of providing security assistance. As you know, every month I convene ministers of defense and chiefs of defense, and we're focused on what we need to do to provide security to Ukraine.
So this comes as President Biden is set to meet with Britain's Prime Minister in Washington later on today, where talks are expected to center on the war in Ukraine and Kyiv's use of Western weapons. Our Ed O'Keefe is joining us from the White House now with more on today's really high-stakes and high-level talks. So, Ed, there's been a lot of speculation that the White House is willing to change its stance on Ukraine's use of long-range missiles deeper into Russian territory. What's driving the speculation?
Well, it's not so much changing as what the Secretary of State earlier this week, while in Kyiv, called sort of adapting to the situation on the ground there between Ukraine and Russia. And so if it's determined that we've reached a point where longer-range missiles are needed by Ukraine, if they're making that request, then the United States, the United Kingdom, and other NATO allies are going to have to sort out, is that acceptable? Who can fire them? From where can they be fired? And at what can they be fired? And that's expected to be the crux of the conversation today between President Biden and Prime Minister Keir Starmer. That the two foreign diplomats, the Secretary of State, the foreign minister, were in Ukraine earlier this week to assess the situation themselves ahead of this meeting is a sign that they're trying to make some kind of determination later today. But they're, of course, now facing threats from Russian President Putin, who said overnight that if the UK and the United States and other NATO allies allow the use of these longer range, much more expensive, much more lethal missiles, then that's essentially an escalation. And that has always been the president's concern here in Washington, is that if the United States is seen as directly providing the aid or the know-how or the manpower for some of this stuff, it would draw the United States and NATO into the conflict, invoke Article 5, and in essence spark a much wider conflict, some would say World War III. So that's what they're discussing today and trying to figure out how can they help Ukraine, reach further into Russia or get provided the more lethal equipment it wants. While trying to avoid that escalation that Putin's threatening.
And now, Ukraine has already sort of tiptoed a little bit into Russia. And there was speculation when they did that it was to kind of show the West, see what we could do if you just sort of let us, we could bring this conflict to an end. So what is the argument on Ukraine's part? We know what Putin is threatening. Why does Ukraine say it's worth it?
Because, well, it's the same argument they've been making this whole time, that the more you help us push back Russia now, the less likely it is that he wins enough territory in Ukraine to essentially take over and then continue pushing into the rest of Europe. The concern, however, that Western leaders have had all this time is if you do that, the escalation could come regardless, because he'll see it as NATO essentially picking a fight with Russia and taking Ukraine's side on this. And so it's that ongoing yin and yang and push and pull. And you're right. Part of what they've been trying to prove, the Ukrainians, in recent weeks by pushing into Russia is that they have the capability to do that, to cause the stalemate to continue, but in essence to Ukraine's advantage this time, because they've exposed Russia for being so vulnerable. So this is the British Prime Minister's second visit to Washington, his first real one-on-one with President Biden as he is picking up his diplomatic work on this ahead of the United Nations General Assembly meetings later this month here in New York. He'll go from here over to Italy, back to the UK. Then several of these world leaders, of course, will be in and around New York later this month for the UN, where Ukraine inevitably is among the topics that will be discussed. The other thing that the British Prime Minister has been doing in advance of this trip is he's sent over a handful of his political aides to talk to the Harris campaign about how it is the Labour Party was able to win a campaign based, in essence, on inflation and issues of dollars and cents earlier this year over there, and what lessons could be learned potentially over here as Democrats try to hold on to the White House in November.
Very interesting. And just seeing as we're talking about some domestic politics, the president is going to be attending the annual conference of the Congressional Black Caucus. It is underway this weekend. One could argue, this is an influential group, and one could even argue that part of the reason why we have, Kamala Harris as the VP is because of, the enthusiastic sort of suggestion coming from the Congressional Black Caucus and some of its more prominent members. What's going to be sort of taking place with the Biden-Harris administration? How are they going to make their presence known at this year's conference?
They attend a big gala dinner that's held over the weekend here in Washington, as they have the last few years, because you're right, the vice president is in essence the greatest example of that caucus's political success by having her graduate from Congress into the vice presidency and now potentially on the verge of the presidency. The president and the vice president have been frequent attendees at their annual conferences here in Washington. I suppose the bigger question is, will they also make time next week for the Congressional Hispanic Caucus meetings, which get held right after the CPC? This is that one stretch of time that Congress is in town this month ahead of the election. So there's a lot of these kinds of dinners and events being held now ahead of the election. So you're going to see a lot of focus on getting the president in sort of a goodbye tour to some of these events, and then the vice president to show up, or at least her running mate Tim Walz, to also, in essence, kiss the ring of these different organizations and make sure they're on board ahead of the election.
And before I let you go, is there a brunch going on today as well?
There is, regarding Black excellence, something the president is hosting here on the back lawn, the South Lawn. He'll be appearing there around midday, the vice president as well, before she goes back out on the campaign trail to Pennsylvania.
All right. Ed O'Keefe, thank you.